Who's your biggest winner of round one?
Oh, I had 3 winners.
Oh, 3. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I'm going with Washington with Sonny Styles.
yeah.
I thought that was a perfect fit in the fact that they were able to sit there and get him. Loved Carolina with Monroe Freeling. Fantastic.
You loved Freeling.
I really think he's got a chance to be good.
There you go. That's the Carolina Panthers discussion after round 1. You guys know I've told you this before. I'm doing my absolute best to create as much Carolina Panthers content as I possibly can. So sometimes it's just the tiniest little soundbite, but nobody else is talking about the Panthers winning the draft. However, Mangini came through with a small little nugget. And I'm genuinely happy he said this because I had taken my notes. You know, I live-streamed the draft, and then I went back and kind of reviewed the entire draft again, looking at every team, and I took my notes. It was late at night. I also had to watch basketball games and take notes for those as well. So there ended up being a collection of teams that I jotted down notes for to make sure I really wanted to talk about them. And the Panthers were one of those teams. I had the Eagles, the Titans, the Commanders, and then the Panthers. And I said to myself, yes, I want to discuss this because it was actually reported that the Eagles maybe wanted the player the Panthers drafted, but Carolina got him. And that's when the Eagles possibly pivoted more toward Mekhi Becton. I mean, who really knows, honestly? But I just continue to really love what the Panthers are doing. And I was listening to another podcast, and they said, oh, the Panthers could be sneaky good this year. And I don't think it's sneaky at all. They have been slowly but surely constructing this team and making intelligent selections, smart agency moves. They're making wise decisions. And you know what the great thing is, too? If Bryce Young ends up being the quarterback of their future, because that seems to be the biggest debate, who is Bryce Young? Who is Bryce Young? I don't think Bryce Young magically, like if they say, hey, you know what? We are going to continue with Bryce. I don't think he gets this massive contract, right? I don't think this is a situation where they say, well, he was the number 1 overall pick, and we kind of have to pay him money, and we think he could be better, but we're still going to pay him. Like what they did with Trevor Lawrence and Tua and so on. So I think even in that situation, you get a more team-friendly deal. And I think even if the Panthers said, okay, we don't want you, I believe other teams would take flyers on him. But it's not like he can just leave and get paid $300 million. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. So I think the Panthers are in such a really fascinating situation where they have the ability to build a great team. And I love the coaching staff, Dave Canales and all of that. You potentially now can move into an era where the quarterback is not breaking the bank. And that's a huge deal. I mean, think about it. The Bucs are like, we're going to give Baker Mayfield all the money in the world. And I say, yeah, do that. For sure. I, as the Carolina Panthers, am like, yeah, buddy, do it. Do it. Do it. 60 million, why not 75 million? Come on, man. He's Josh Allen, right? Go. 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 Pay him. Pay him. Pay him. And the Saints have a rookie quarterback deal for the next few years, right? That's a major advantage. And I like Tyler Shuck, and I believe in Kellen Moore as a coordinator as well. So they'll be competitive too. And then you have to wait and see what actually happens with the Falcons, of course, because who knows, are either of those quarterbacks going to be their quarterbacks? Are they going to draft a quarterback? So either way, it's not going to cost them a ton of money either. So having a quarterback that doesn't break the bank is going to matter, especially over these next 3 or 4 years. Just look at the teams that have been able to build without having to pay their quarterback. The Broncos have built without paying Bo Nix. The Bears have built without paying Caleb Williams. So when you're in that situation, compare it to the Chiefs and how much harder it is to build that roster out. So the Panthers are in a great spot, and I just love a move like this. Really getting a big, athletic offensive lineman. You just want to continue to take the responsibility off of Bryce Young's shoulders. To me, the way I look at Bryce Young right now, and I've talked about this a little bit in the past, is like this: Bryce Young can actually be a genuine playmaker when he's not forced to make a play as a secondary reaction, not in some kind of off-script, mayday 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 moment, right? Because that's W. Here Josh Allen is at his best. That's where Lamar Jackson is at his best. That's where Patrick Mahomes is at his best. There are different versions of off-script. Sometimes off-script just means, man, no one's open, what do I do? And now I'm going to drift around a little bit. Or yeah, the pocket's collapsing, someone's coming at me, but I'm still in control of the situation a lot more. Right? When Bryce Young is under control, when he is more in control, he can make plays. He can be the playmaker. When things get a little crazy and a little sped up, that's not when he's at his best. It's actually kind of similar, ironically, to CJ Stroud in a way. When you give these guys a minute to breathe and allow them to operate, they can be playmakers. I think sometimes we look at quarterbacks through this narrow lens where it's like you're either a game changer, a game breaker, or you're not. It's just binary, yes or no. But everything's a spectrum, man. Everything is a spectrum. And there are different ways to get to these things. To me, Bryce Young absolutely can make plays and can actually genuinely elevate the players around him. So I'm a fan of Bryce Young. And I'm rooting for him too because he's the exact type of player I want to see succeed in the NFL. So I hope he doesn't make me look silly. I hope he doesn't make me look bad because I've definitely been progressively getting higher and higher on Bryce Young as the weeks unfolded near the end of the season and especially the playoffs. And maybe I'm still riding off that high from the playoff game because I'm still just so impressed. I've said this a lot. That was one of the most underdiscussed parts of the playoffs. We talked so much about how hard it is for young quarterbacks to be in the playoffs, to play in their first ever playoff game. We expect them to struggle. We expect them to be bad. And Bryce Young showed up. I mean, Bryce Young was awesome. He absolutely put the team in a position to win the game. He was not why they lost. And yet people are still asking, oh, is Bryce Young ever going to be the starter? Should he even start? Should he even be in the NFL anymore? Is he just a backup? And yet in his first ever playoff game, he would have been the reason why they won. He was a playmaker. He was making plays, making moves. And they lost, and you cannot say Bryce Young wasn't good enough. That is a massive victory. That is a story. That is something to discuss. But it wasn't discussed at all. I tried to discuss it, but it wasn't discussed enough. So I'm interested to see what that looks like building off that foundation, building off that continuity. So the Panthers, like anything, it will still very much be a focal point on who Bryce Young is as a quarterback. But to me, there's some juice there. How much? I don't know. I'm not trying to make some grand claim that I think Bryce Young is set up to take over the NFL and become this elite, bona fide top 10 quarterback. I don't know. I think, weirdly enough, you know how we have quarterbacks like Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff who are operators of offenses? They're not necessarily elite quarterbacks, but they're elite operators of offenses. In a lot of ways, Josh Allen is a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins or Jared Goff. But you can make the argument that when it comes to operating an offense, operating within the pocket, being a pure passer, they're better than Josh Allen or Mahomes or Lamar, right? So like I said, everything's a spectrum, and you can cut these things up in so many different directions. I wouldn't be surprised if Bryce Young ends up being essentially the mobile version of a Jared Goff, in terms of how I want to phrase this. What Kirk Cousins is to Matthew Stafford in that degree of, because I think Matthew Stafford is clearly elite and clearly special. On that spectrum, if that's who Bryce Young is, but the mobile version compared to Mahomes and Josh Allen, right? Where there's clearly a lot of juice there. There's clearly a lot to like, and you can win here. It's not quite Mahomes. It's not quite Matthew Stafford. It's not quite Joe Burrow. But when things are going well, when you have things under control, you can win a lot of games. When you build a good enough team and you have a good enough coach, there is a lot there. You can actually genuinely build momentum. And as for what that ceiling is, everyone is always so convinced of what someone's ceiling is, I'm not going to put a number on it. But I could see that as how Bryce Young fits into the NFL as a whole and with the Carolina Panthers. And if you get that at a discount, I mean, I think we're recognizing that, is it better to have a quarterback who's maybe not as elite but cheaper than having that elite quarterback but having to pay him all the money in the world? That's a real conversation that I feel like the NFL is starting to wrestle with and might start to play a little more hardball when negotiating contracts. Because having a quarterback who's just pretty good but paying him like $30 million turns that into an elite situation just because of the amount of money you save and what you can do with that cap space. So it'll be interesting to see this next season or two with the Carolina Panthers. And a move like this, to me, is just a great step forward in that direction. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you all think about the Carolina Panthers and Bryce Young? Do you think they are indeed the biggest winner of round 1 according to Mangini? Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here. I would absolutely love to see you as part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing that. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.